Everyone knows the name The Godfather. It's a cultural touchstone, a cinematic masterpiece that has shaped our understanding of organized crime. But what if I told you the real Godfather wasn't Vito Corleone? What if the character we've all come to know and recognize was inspired by someone even more formidable, more complex, and ultimately more terrifying? And his story is even more shocking than fiction. The truth often surpasses the imagination, and in this case, the life of the real Godfather is a testament to that. Today I'm diving into the shadowy world of the Mafia. We're going to peel back the layers of myth and legend to uncover the man who truly inspired one of cinema's most iconic figures. To reveal the true boss who inspired the legend. A man whose name may not be as widely known but whose influence was far-reaching and whose methods were undeniably brutal. Don Vito Cascioferro. A name that should be whispered with respect, and perhaps a little fear. The movies paint the Godfather as a reluctant hero, a man burdened by circumstance, forced to make difficult choices for the sake of his family. A family man pulled into a life of crime. A narrative that humanizes a dangerous figure, making him relatable, even sympathetic. But the real Cascioferro? He was no reluctant criminal. He wasn't a victim of circumstance, but a calculated and ambitious leader who embraced the life of crime with open arms. He was the undisputed king of the Sicilian underworld. He ruled with an iron fist, commanding respect and instilling fear in equal measure. A man whispered about in fear and rarely seen. His presence was a constant shadow, a reminder of the power he wielded and the consequences of crossing him. Let's separate myth from reality. Let's delve into the historical records and eyewitness accounts to paint a true picture of this enigmatic figure. Cascioferro was born in 1862 in Sicily, a land steeped in tradition, honor, and a deep-seated code of silence, where he rose through the ranks by mixing brutal violence with old-school charm. He understood the power of both intimidation and persuasion, using them to manipulate and control those around him. He controlled entire towns. His influence extended to every aspect of life, from the local economy to the very laws that governed the people. Judges, cops, politicians all in his pocket. He had cultivated a network of corruption that reached the highest levels of power, ensuring his continued dominance. If you wanted something done in Sicily, you asked Ferro. He was the ultimate fixer, the man who could make anything happen for a price. If he said no, you didn't ask again. His word was law, and to defy him was to invite certain doom. Now, the Godfather films gave us the code of omerta, silence. The vow of silence, the refusal to cooperate with authorities, is a cornerstone of the Mafia's power. That was real. It wasn't just a cinematic device, but a deeply ingrained principle that protected the Mafia from exposure and prosecution. Ferro was a master at hiding in plain sight. He understood that the best way to maintain power was to remain elusive, to operate in the shadows. He ran his empire from his farmhouse, a seemingly innocuous location that concealed a web of criminal activity, hosting lavish dinners for local power brokers. These gatherings were more than just social events. They were strategic meetings where deals were made, alliances were forged, and power was consolidated. To outsiders, he was a kindly landowner, a respected member of the community, a pillar of society. To the underworld, he was the iron fist in the velvet glove, a ruthless enforcer who maintained order through fear and intimidation. The movies love to show the Mafia's family-first rule. The idea that loyalty to family trumps all else is a recurring theme in Mafia narratives. But the real boss had a different priority. Control. Family was important, but control was paramount. Ferro was ruthless. He would stop at nothing to maintain his grip on power, even if it meant sacrificing those closest to him. When an American detective named Joe Petrosino came to Sicily to break the Mafia, he posed a serious threat to Ferro's empire. Ferro allegedly ordered his murder, a bold and brazen act that sent shockwaves through both Sicily and the United States. No one talked. The code of omerta held strong, protecting Ferro from prosecution. The case is still unsolved, a testament to the Mafia's enduring power and its ability to evade justice. What about the retirement scene from The Godfather? The image of a Don gracefully passing the torch to the next generation. The real Ferro didn't go out quietly. His reign ended not with a whimper, but with a bang. When Italy cracked down on the Mafia, he was jailed, finally brought to justice after decades of evading the law. But even then, his influence never really died. He continued to exert control from behind bars, a testament to his enduring power. His legacy lives on in the myths, the movies, and the fear that still echoes in the streets of Sicily. A reminder of the dark legacy of the Mafia and the enduring impact of men like Castiofero. So next time you watch The Godfather, remember, the real story is even more gripping. The truth is often stranger and more compelling than fiction. Don Vito Castiofero, the true Godfather, ruled an empire of secrets, silence, and shadows, an empire built on fear, sustained by corruption, and shrouded in mystery. And his ghost still haunts the Mafia's darkest corners. A reminder of the price of power and the enduring legacy of organized crime. If you want more hidden true crime stories, hit that subscribe button. There are countless untold tales of crime and corruption waiting to be uncovered. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe. The world of true crime can be a dark and dangerous place, so always be mindful of your surroundings and stay vigilant.
You ever wonder how just a handful of people can make a whole city feel on edge? I mean, how do gangs, sometimes numbering just dozens or hundreds, manage to completely control the vibe of entire neighborhoods, or even whole cities? It's not just about muscle or firepower, nope. It's all about fear. Specifically, the psychology of fear. Let's break down how this works. First, gangs understand that fear is contagious. Once they make an example out of someone, maybe a rival, maybe an innocent bystander, the news spreads like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone's whispering about what happened. The message? If it happened to them, it could happen to you. That's psychological warfare 101. But it doesn't stop there. Gangs use symbols, graffiti, colors, hand signs to mark territory. These aren't just tags or fashion statements. They're warnings. It's like saying, we're watching. We own this block. And if you're not part of the crew, you know to keep your head down. They also manipulate trust and loyalty. Think about it. If you grow up seeing that people who snitch or step out of line get hurt, you learn real quick to keep quiet. Gangs use this to isolate communities from police or outside help. People start to believe that the gang is the only force that matters, or the only one that will protect them. Intimidation isn't always loud. Sometimes it's subtle. A stare on the street, a car that slows down when you walk by, little reminders that the gang is everywhere, even if you can't see them. That constant pressure, it wears people down. They start making decisions based on fear, like closing their shops earlier, avoiding certain streets, or just pretending not to notice when something shady goes down. Here's the scary part. This manipulation works because our brains are wired to respond to threats. When we hear stories of violence, see signs of danger, or feel watched, our bodies go into survival mode. Gangs know how to trigger this, again and again, until fear becomes a routine part of life. But knowledge is power. Once we understand how this psychology works, we can start to break the cycle. Communities can push back by building trust, sharing information, and taking away the secrecy that gangs rely on. So the next time you hear about a city controlled by gangs, remember, it's not just about weapons or numbers. It's about fear and the minds that feed off it. Stay smart, stay safe, and don't let fear be the boss.
Alright, let's dive right in. The world's most powerful mafia families may sound like something out of a movie, but trust me, they're very real, and some are still calling the shots today. First up, Italy's infamous Cosa Nostra. Born in Sicily, this organization's got a legacy stretching back centuries. They built their empire on protection rackets, drug trafficking, and political corruption. Even today, the Cosa Nostra's grip on parts of Italy is so tight, locals often say the mafia is the state. Next, I'm heading to Japan, where the Yakuza rules the shadows. Picture tattooed gangsters, strict codes of honor, and a business empire that rakes in billions. The Yakuza are so ingrained in society that, for a while, they even had their own headquarters with signs out front. No need to hide. These days, the police are cracking down, but don't be fooled. They're still a powerful force, both feared and, weirdly, sometimes respected. Let's talk Russia. The Russian Mafia, or Bratva, isn't just one group, but a tangled web of criminal clans. These guys exploded in power after the Soviet Union collapsed, branching out into everything from cybercrime to arms dealing. Their reach, global, their reputation, ruthless. Jumping back to Italy, I can't skip the 'Ndrangheta. You may not have heard their name, but they're actually richer and more powerful than the Cosa Nostra these days. Based in Calabria, these folks keep it tight. Most members are literally family. Their specialty? Controlling the European cocaine trade. Last but not least, the American Mafia or La Cosa Nostra. Think the Godfather, but real. At their peak, they ran New York, Chicago and more, infiltrating unions, gambling and even Hollywood. Law enforcement cracked down hard in the 80s and 90s, but the American Mafia isn't gone. They're just quieter and more careful. So, from the back alleys of Sicily to the neon streets of Tokyo, these Mafia families aren't just legends. They're still out there, evolving, adapting, and yes, surviving. If you're fascinated by true crime and the secret empires shaping our world from the shadows, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one.
Alright, picture this, Hollywood, the land of glitz glamour and the ever-present flash of cameras. But behind those dazzling lights, shadows. And in those shadows, the Mafia saw opportunity. Yeah, the mob. I'm talking about real-life gangsters, not just the ones you see on screen. Back in the early 20th century, as Hollywood's power and profits exploded, organized crime was watching closely, hungry for a piece of the action. So how did the Mafia actually worm their way into Tinseltown? First, unions. The mob knew unions meant control, so they muscled into groups like the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, or I8C for short. In the 1940s, a mobster named Willie Beoff basically ran the union. He'd threaten studio heads with strikes, unless of course they handed over cash. The studios paid to keep the cameras rolling. The mob pocketed millions. But it wasn't just unions. The Mafia leaned into the glitz too. Nightclubs owned by gangsters became the after-hours playground for actors, directors, and producers. If you were a star in the 40s or 50s, chances are you rubbed elbows with someone connected, maybe without even knowing it. And then there's the financing. Making movies cost big bucks. Sometimes studios needed cash fast, and the mob had money to lend, at a price. Loan sharking let them launder money, and if a movie tanked, well, you didn't want to be the one who lost their investment. Let's not forget the stories themselves. Mobsters loved seeing their own legends on the big screen, and they weren't above consulting on scripts. In fact, when The Godfather was being made real life, Mafia figures tried to control the narrative, making sure Hollywood didn't insult their image. A few meetings later, some script changes, and suddenly, the mob's portrayal was a little more respectful. Of course, law enforcement eventually cracked down. Big trials, exposed rackets, and some high-profile testimonies weakened the Mafia's grip. But their influence in shaping Hollywood's golden age, that's real, and honestly, it's a wild part of movie history we can't ignore. So next time you watch a classic mob flick, just remember, sometimes the truth behind the camera was even stranger and scarier than fiction. Hollywood may shine, but those shadows, they've got stories of their own.
Let me take you into the shadows of the Mafia, where secrets are currency and silence. Well, silence is survival. You've probably heard the word omerta tossed around in mob movies, right? But what is it really? Omerta isn't just a rule or a suggestion, it's a sacred code of silence. And in the Mafia world, breaking that code is like signing your own death warrant. So, where did omerta come from? The origins go way back, to the sun-soaked hills of Sicily, Italy. Picture a world where the government was weak and people had to look out for each other. If someone from outside messed with your family, you handled it yourself. No police, no judges, and definitely no talking. That's omerta. Never cooperate with authorities, never snitch, not even if your life depends on it. It sounds brutal, but to mafiosi, snitching is the ultimate betrayal. The code is so deep that even if you get caught, even if you're facing a life sentence, you're supposed to keep your mouth shut. Why? Because the Mafia sees itself as a family, and loyalty to the family comes before anything else, even your own freedom. But here's the twist. Omerta isn't just about keeping quiet to protect yourself, it's about protecting everyone in the network. If one person talks, the whole system crumbles. That's why the Mafia enforces omerta with iron fists. Violators have vanished without a trace, leaving only whispers and fear behind. And it's not just about fear. There's a kind of pride in it too. Old-school mobsters see omerta as a badge of honor. The less you say, the more respect you earn. In fact, some Mafia initiations included vows to uphold omerta, swearing on family, religion, and even life itself. But of course, times have changed. Law enforcement got smarter, wiretaps, undercover agents, and one by one some members started to talk, shattering omerta's mystique. The famous case? Sammy the Bull Gravano, who broke the code and helped take down John Gotti, the so-called Teflon Don. That was a turning point. Proof that even the strongest codes can break under pressure. Still, Omerta's shadow lingers. Even today, in areas touched by organized crime, you'll hear people say, "I didn't see nothing, I don't know nothing." It's a survival instinct, passed down through generations. So next time you hear about a mafia trial or watch a gangster flick, remember, behind every silence, there's a story. And sometimes silence speaks louder than words. Thanks for watching. If you want more secrets from the darkest corners of history, hit that subscribe button.
Alright, picture this. Classic gangsters. Suits, cigars, getaway cars, that old school mobster style. But what if I told you? Today's gangsters are trading in fedoras for smartphones and Tommy guns for crypto wallets. Yeah, the world of organized crime has had a total digital makeover. Let's dive in. First up, Instagram. Believe it or not, social media is the new playground for modern criminals. You've probably seen those flashy posts. Luxury cars, designer clothes, stacks of cash. But a lot of these gangsters aren't just flexing, they're making serious money, and not always legally. Some use Instagram to recruit, brag, or even intimidate rivals. Think of it like a digital turf war right on your feed. Now here's where it gets wild. Crypto. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all those digital coins. They're like the Swiss bank accounts of the internet. Old school criminals had to move briefcases of cash. Today it's all about moving millions with just a few taps. Ransomware hackers, online extortionists, and even drug traffickers love crypto because it's fast, global, and, if you're careful, anonymous. Here's an example. In 2020, a group of cybercriminals pulled off a crazy Twitter hack, posing as famous people and scamming followers out of Bitcoin. That's digital street cred, and it made headlines everywhere. But it's not just about stealing money. Some gangs use encrypted apps to coordinate heists, launder cash through online casinos, or even sell illegal goods on hidden parts of the web called the darknet. The tools might be new, but the hustle is the same. So how do police catch these modern gangsters? It's a digital cat-and-mouse game. There are cyber task forces, undercover agents on social media, even AI tools tracking suspicious crypto transactions. It's like the old days, but everyone's playing with way more tech. Here's the crazy part. These digital gangsters are often younger, more tech-savvy, and harder to catch. Some don't even leave their bedrooms. But the stakes, just as high as ever. So the next time you scroll past someone showing off stacks